We're going to be talking to Raja about a separate topic, but similarly how SMBs are using mobile and how PayPal is becoming a utility to allow them to run their business, acquire new business, and do things like transactions, and not necessarily demand generation and advertising, although it does tie into that. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So I run strategy and business operations for a retail business. So PayPal, as you probably all know, has traditionally been an online business, but a couple of years ago we started making a foray into the offline business and seeing how we could really address our merchants and customers in a way that they really all shop. We think about this term omni-channel, which I know a lot of you guys have heard about omni-channel, but it was really the ability for us to be able to take what we've done with our online customers and be able to drive that same sort of value in retail business.
Yep. And your kind of platform agnostic approach we'll get into in a bit. I think that has a lot to do with your scalability. Now, let's stop and define kind of mobile payments, because that's really kind of one of our topics here. And mobile payments has been this kind of like sticky ball of wax that it's thrown around. No one ever stops to define it because we have things like m-commerce, which is important. We're not talking about that today, but that's important. There is proximity payments, which is kind of paying at the point of sale. That's further subdivided by different standards and formats like NFC and kind of what Starbucks does with a barcode scanner at the POS. And in PayPal, what you're doing in a lot of different ways, but one of which being kind of paying in the background for services that are then fulfilled or previously fulfilled in the case of restaurant checkout. So characterize or define some of that for us. In which of those buckets are you present?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's a lot of flavors to it. As far as PayPal plays, if you think about the mobile card reader, we have a PayPal Here, which is a product that allows small and micro businesses to really be able to accept payments wherever they need to by interacting with an iPhone, iPad, or Android device. And it's really for businesses that have on-the-go needs so that they're easily able to take a swipe payment. If you think about the PayPal app, that's really a consumer-facing product.
User-facing, yeah.
Yes, it's a user-facing product, and it goes beyond just getting rid of your wallet. And I know a lot of people look at it as just, I no longer need my wallet to pay, I can use my mobile phone, but we also think about incremental value add there. You think about saving time, saving money. These are tenets of our business. So saving time by launching products like Order Ahead and paying at table so that you're able to interact with the merchant without having to actually physically interact with that merchant, and saving time on the consumer side as well. You talked about proximity payments. We've also launched a Beacon. I know there's been some discussion about Beacon throughout this conference as well, but it is really a proximity-based approach. The value there is really the merchant is able to interact with the consumer in a way they never have been able to before, by curating offers and pushing them to a consumer, having the consumer be able to check out without even actually having to take out their phone, so it's even quicker than just a check-in payment. And then finally, there's kind of the QR code sort of thing, and we launched Payment Code in the past year, which is the ability to generate a payment code. It's generating a QR code on the device so that you can actually interact with a merchant's existing system, but a consumer is still able to use the benefits of saving time, saving money, and not having to do it that
That's
way.
a good point, too. Lowering the barriers for the merchant is huge. Not having to invest in additional hardware, that's huge, because we're talking about a chicken and egg situation. It's a classic chicken and egg situation. The compatibility at the POS level and the compatibility at the device/user level. But on that user level, I want to talk about another thing you mentioned, which is saving time, saving money. Because I've been grinding this axe kind of as an analyst, watching mobile payments unfold. And there's this classic solution in search of a problem kind of syndrome that's happening in mobile payments, where there's a lot of technology for technology's sake. There's a lot of solutions out there that I believe are making all of these kind of fancy claims to do something which is largest value proposition, as far as I can tell, is to not swipe your credit card and instead tap something. So it's tap instead of swipe. And I've never heard one person complain that my credit card is too heavy or that swiping it is just such a pain in the butt. So, it's really just, all of this attention around this thing to replace something that was never really a pain point, and maybe I'm missing something. But I think that the success in mobile payments won't be leave your credit cards at home. It's going to be something more tangible, like you mentioned, saving time, saving money, skipping lines.
Absolutely. So you have all of those options, but I mean, if you look at one of them, saving money. So the products we built have really allowed merchants to be able to interact with their customers in ways they never had before. And that's really through loyalty programs that they can push through the app. So all of a sudden what you're doing is you're almost leveling the playing field for some of these SMBs with larger merchants, because larger merchants typically have probably more advertising dollars, more ways to get to their consumers, and can advertise and send them out in a bigger way. Smaller merchants didn't really have that ability before, but the advent of mobile has actually allowed merchants to be able to do that and kind of push through their own offers and create these proximity-based ways, so that you're walking by a store and all of a sudden oh hey, guess what, I have $5 off ice cream right now and it's a hot day and I love vanilla ice cream. So you have that sort of opportunity now that didn't exist before, and I think what it's really been able to do is kind of really level that playing field.
And we're going to see a video in a second that really characterizes some of those product sets, but to verbally unpack that a bit further, one of the things that I was alluding to earlier with saving time, and as you just characterized, are things such as paying in the background. One thing I love that I haven't used enough, but it's starting to be rolled out and used to a greater degree, is this kind of skip the line functionality. And it makes so much sense for certain product categories like coffee, where you might have a very habitual single order that you can kind of utilize through that app. It gets to know you, and also something that you're very hurried in the morning. So the ability to order in advance on your way to Starbucks and then pick it up when you get there, skip that first line, that's a real tangible thing that I think people can get on board with and really get them over the hump of changing what is such an entrenched habit. Paying is a security-ridden, entrenched habit. So tell us a bit about the pay in advance, and then also the restaurant checkout functionality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so from our perspective, we think about a couple core tenets, and those tangible benefits, as you mentioned, are clearly what are going to be the differentiators. When you turn it from everyone can give you some sort of system to pay, but how do you actually deliver benefit into the consumer's hands? So pay at table is really as simple as, I'm sitting at a table service restaurant. I finished my meal. My worst part about that experience is waiting for the waiter to come in, having to give him my credit card, waiting for them to come. I mean, I'm done, I'm out, right? So this function really allows you to be able to interact with that merchant in a much quicker way, in a much more seamless way. From the merchant side, that's actually a benefit as well, because they're able to turn their tables a little bit better. They're able to increase operational efficiency.
And in addition to time, it's a security concern. I've heard that this might not be 100% accurate. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the most insecure times in the life of a credit card is that 5 minutes when your credit card goes away to somewhere you don't know where it is, and
I mean, it's funny, and if you think about kind of safety and security as tenets of what PayPal has built through the course of our lifetime, you think about what are ways to be able to interact with businesses in a way that allows you to protect your consumer information. The same thing applies in the offline business, and it's exactly in those situations where you don't actually have your credit card handy, and let's say you're out at the bar and maybe had one too many libations. You kind of forget it sometimes. Not that I've ever done that. These are ways for us to be able to actually provide that same sort of value, where we really protect our customers, as well as providing merchants with the same benefit of being able to get those payments and making sure that it's as seamless as possible. What we've really focused on with this app is building the best consumer product that we can. But as you flip over to the merchant side, what we realize is we don't necessarily want to build our own point of sale system that way. We want this app to be able to interact with kind of what a merchant currently sits at in their shop. We've learned through a lot of periods that ripping and replacing out of a merchant doesn't really work. But if there's ways that we can integrate this sort of app and this sort of system with their existing point of sale system, that would be a benefit for everyone. And so we've really focused a lot of our energy on building out this partner network and working on a partner program, which is something that we operate online, but really turning that into an offline capability so that we can really create scale as quickly as possible, and so that we can make it as seamless for businesses as possible, such that they never have to worry about the payment aspect anymore, and they can actually focus on delivering true value to their customers.
Now these partners you're talking about, these are the POS hardware, the software providers that run that, the ShopKeeps of the world. That's what you're talking about.
There's actually partners we've been moving up the spectrum. We've been working with hardware providers. There are those what we call the mobile POS providers, such as the ShopKeeps, the Revels, the Silvers. all the way up to a little more advanced POS systems such as NCR and Micros. And then we've also partnered with Discover to actually enable a network of 2 million merchants
that's right.
Nationwide so that we can enable payments in as many places as possible. Okay,
so I want to drill down again on some of the SMB-facing stuff. This is from our local Commerce Monitor survey of small businesses, and PayPal here is actually named by 22.7% of our respondents as something that they're using. And this brings up a point that's similar to what's the value exchange, what's the value proposition. We talked about saving time, saving money, security. This is another one that's interesting and brings up a point. For small businesses in particular, especially very small businesses, one pain point that needs to be solved, and you're working in that direction, is cash flow. Big problem for a lot of very small businesses. Now, PayPal here for people that do house calls, anyone in home services, personal trainers, even things like mobile food trucks. The ability to get paid on the spot versus what was otherwise a lengthy billing process really starts to alleviate that traditional pain point that was a cash flow situation.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, I think the major benefit that we've seen to PayPal here is it's allowed businesses that previously weren't able to accept payments the way they wanted to accept payments, be able to accept them. And what we've seen over time is that based on a verticalized approach and really focusing our PayPal Here product on the right merchants, we've actually gotten to a point where I think we've seen an uptick of those merchants of 25% in sales. Is a number that we've been floating around. So we've seen tangible benefit from being able to curate the right solutions for a merchant when they need to make that payment wherever they want to be.
So for those that's very tweetable. For those tweeting, what was that? So 25% increase in sales for those using PayPal Here. Excellent. I'd like to get that figure from you at some point too. We'll publish that. So that's all the time we have. But thanks, Raja. Very enlightening. So join me in thanking Raja.